Some of you are crazy ambitious. I'm here to tell you to slow down. Recently, I had a lot of people, about 10 different people in comments on the Discord, telling me they are first-time DMs and they're homebrewing their entire world. This is fabulous, except for the fact that they all seem very overwhelmed. So today, let's talk about taking an adventure module and making it your own. But first, why am I even suggesting this? It's not because I don't like homebrew content. In fact, it's the opposite. At least 50% of the stuff that I run is homebrew content. I even have my own homebrew world. I've homebrewed complete one-shots. I've added things to one-shots to flesh them out more. But homebrew content takes time and energy. And hi, I'm a mama of a little toddler. I don't have time or energy. I have seen this on Reddit a lot, as well as I've heard it from my own friends and community members that the amount of prep work that it takes to be a DM has killed their DM spirit. I feel like this comes down to whether or not you're a new DM or an experienced DM, it's because we all run out of ideas eventually, and it's just a lot of work to homebrew everything. That's kind of why the adventure modules exist, right? Also, I'm an anxious DM. There's a whole video about that. And I think there are a lot of people like me who get super anxious about running an adventure module, especially when it is something that I have homebrewed. Because then I start to doubt my ability in creating those things, doubt whether or not I'm a good DM, and question whether my players are actually enjoying the game. Knowing that all of this can be an issue, typically I use a mesh of both homebrew and adventure modules together. Here's the thing though, modules are boring. Obviously, there are some good ones out there that maybe don't need any supplements, but in general, they really get very railroady. They can feel unoriginal because they aren't original, and they can leave players feeling just about your campaign. Here are some ways to make that adventure module more your own, so you get a little bit of that homebrew aspect and feel and get to do what you love doing, while also not driving yourself crazy trying to homebrew every aspect of your campaign. First tip or method, I guess, would be to try to reskin the whole module. Vampires like Strahd aren't just in the Shadowfell. You could stick Barovia in anywhere. You could maybe instead of Castle Strahd, it's a hillside manor in the country. You can rename the people, the places, the monsters to fit in your own homebrew world while still not having to create everything from scratch. You can even utilize maps from the modules. In fact, I once stole a house from Tomb of Annihilation to put into a Jungle Manor heist that I did. I've used a reskinned version of Death House for a one-shot. It's pretty easy to just change it to fit the theme of the game that you want to provide. Alternatively, you can chain your modules together. This obviously takes a little bit of work, a little bit of planning, and I haven't done this particular thing myself, but there are plenty of adventures, especially from older editions of D&D, as well as from third-party publishers that work in tandem with other aspects of 5e. For instance, Hoard of the Dragon Queen is kind of a poop adventure. I had plans to combine it with some of the Waterdeep heist stuff, since I planned on passing through that town. The cool thing about this is that if your players really want the Forgotten Realms lore, you can introduce bits and pieces of it to them and pick and choose what you offer them. It also helps mix things up. So instead of just being, 3 years of fighting Strahd in a castle, you can have a little bit of that and then maybe some dragon-esque things as Tiamat tries to rise to power as well. It also introduces you as the DM to different plot lines, both with villains, with locations, with NPCs, items, player hooks, which in turn leads to you being able to create better adventures and better stuff when you homebrew. If you like what you're watching, consider supporting me on Patreon, where you can get all sorts of really neat things, like behind the scenes, ad-free versions of my videos, live streams, shop discounts, paper products, magazines, and more. Link is in the description. Another thing you can do is to lean into those backstories. Okay, I ran Hoard of the Dragon Queen as a first-time DM, which I know, yeah, major regret. It's not a good one to start with. There's way too much travel in that one, a lot of downtime as you go from city to city. And so to make it more exciting, I started to lean into my characters' backstories. One of my players had lost their family, and I made the cause of their death one of the Red Wizards. One character's rich younger brother show up and tell his older brother that he was no longer inheriting. I had a whole side quest for my paladin to help him choose his oath, as well as to provide him with a shield that would level up with him throughout the campaign. In the end, when that campaign fizzled out, I probably homebrewed about 50% of the time, which gave me a chance to test out encounters, to learn how to balance things, to try some homebrew monsters, try some puzzle ideas, make a 5-room dungeon, while still having an overarching storyline that I didn't have to think too hard about. And I think that ended up making me a better DM in the long run. Not only that, but it also helped me tie the characters into the main storyline and get my players invested in the overarching world. I actually still have a couple of the players who ask questions about what would have happened if they had done X in that campaign. This one is probably the thing I do the most now as not a beginner, as a more experienced DM. And I think this is the thing that most people use adventure modules for: stealing. Steal bits of other modules to put into your homebrew world. Again, will involve maybe a little bit of reskinning, renaming some things. But if you love world building like I do, then this is probably the best way to get both less prep time while also still putting things in a world that you've created. I have taken some of the books from the Candlekeep Mysteries, is that what it's called? Whatever that Candlekeep book is, and dropped them into my homebrew world. I have taken one-shots and used them as side quests. I have stolen whole parts of Hoard of the Dragon Queen, like maps and etc., to put into my homebrew world. Kind of my homebrew world is a wall, okay? And I just keep throwing D&D spaghetti at it and seeing what my players make stick to it. I hope that this video makes you feel okay with not making everything original. One, your players are not going to know unless they are a DM, and even if they are, they'll still be able to enjoy what you're throwing at them if you tailor it a little bit. But if this doesn't make you feel any better, go to Reddit. Anytime someone asks how to run a book or a module, most people say they don't run the book as is. And that means that they homebrew a lot of it to fit their table. And if you need help, come join me on the Discord server. We talk about this kind of stuff all the time. There are DMs there who have way more experience than I do, who will probably tell you similar things, but we're always happy to help you come up with campaign ideas, to give you reference material, just to help each other out. Look, there's only one DM per table, right? And you kind of need some more people on your team, right? So let us be on your team for a bit. We'd love to help you. If you're an anxious DM like me, you should totally check out this video, because I literally struggle every time I sit at the table. And here, I can tell you how I managed to get through that anxiety. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.